This conference will now be recorded.
So good morning, everyone. So today I'll tell about pneumonias. I think today's is the 4th class of the respiratory system. Still 2 more classes are there, so that I'll finish off the respiratory system. In the next class, I'll tell you about the interstitial lung diseases. And in the last class, that's a very important class. So bronchogenic carcinoma I'll tell in the last class. Okay, so that is a essay question for you, bronchogenic carcinoma. So I hope you read COPDs and you understood the COPDs. So emphysema, bronchitis, okay, asthma, bronchiectasis. Hope you, every one of you, read those topics in your book. And today's topic is pneumonia. So pneumonia you'll be having in practical class also. I think already PG madam told briefly about the gross specimen and briefly about pneumonia. So today I'll tell in detail about the pneumonia, various stages of pneumonia, and then again you'll be having one practical class mostly tomorrow. Then you observe the microscopy and gross. Okay. So lung infections, they may be acute and chronic. So acute infections include pneumonias, lung abscess, and some fungal pneumonias also. And chronic lung infection, most common etiology, you know that it is pulmonary tuberculosis. Okay. So acute lung infections, pneumonias. So what is the definition? Acute inflammation of the lung parenchyma distal to the terminal bronchiole. So that is what are the parts that are involved distal to the terminal bronchiole? Respiratory bronchioles, alveolar duct, alveolar sacs, and alveoli. Okay. And there is consolidation. Pneumonia leads to consolidation both macroscopically. So on cut surface of the lung, you will see some gray white solidified areas, and also radiologically also we can note those solidification. So consolidation is nothing but solidification in pneumonia. Okay. So what are the various routes of entry of microorganisms? So the most common route of entry is inhalation, right? So inhalation of the microbes present in the air, and the second common route is aspiration. So if there is some infection in the nasopharynx or oropharynx, so then if we aspirate, then there is chance of lung pneumonia. And hematogenous spread from a distant focus of infection. So the infection is somewhere else, not like in the nasopharynx or the oropharynx, but like it may be in some other organ also. Then via blood it will spread to the lung. Then direct spread from an adjoining site of infection. So adjacent to the lung, if any site focus of infection is there, then there can be direct spread. So what are the various routes? Inhalation, aspiration of organisms from nasopharynx or oropharynx, then hematogenous spread, and then direct spread. So among all routes, what is the most common route of causing pneumonia? Inhalation. Okay. So since 3 months we are facing virological war due to this SARS. Okay. So that is also due to inhalation. That's why we have to keep mask whenever we go out. Okay. Predisposing factors. What are the predisposing factors for pneumonia? So not like all the individuals will get pneumonia, but there are certain predisposing conditions in certain patients which leads to pneumonia. So the first one is altered consciousness. If the conscious level is low, then there is a chance of aspiration. Okay. And then normally if we aspirate something from the nasopharynx or the oropharynx, we'll have this cough reflex. Okay, we'll have this normal cough reflex. Then usually the substance will go out, whatever we inhale. Okay, whatever we aspirate. But in certain patients where the cough reflex or the glottic reflex is depressed, then there is chance of aspiration, and then there is a chance of getting pneumonia. So depressed cough reflex is usually seen in certain diseases like kyphoscoliosis or neuromuscular diseases. Okay. And the third one is impaired mucociliary transport. So you already know that mucociliary transport is necessary. It is a protective mechanism against the foreign bodies. Okay. But if the mucociliary transport is not functioning properly, then it will lead to pneumonia. So where you'll see this impaired mucociliary transport commonly in the smokers. Okay. So cigarette smoking, it is a common condition where there is impaired mucociliary transport, and anemia and other illness. And then endobronchial obstruction, it may be due to tumor, foreign body, etc. and leukocyte dysfunction. Okay. So like in HIV individuals, and immunosuppressive people who are receiving the immunosuppressive therapy. So here there will be the dysfunction of the leukocytes. So WBCs are not functioning properly. Okay. So these are the predisposing factors for pneumonia. So altered consciousness, depressed cough reflex, impaired mucociliary transport, endobronchial obstruction, leukocyte dysfunction. Right? Then what is the classification of pneumonia? How do you classify pneumonias? Okay. One is anatomical classification and the other one is etiological classification. So based on anatomy and based on etiology, which organism, which class of microorganism is affecting. So based on anatomy, it is divided into lobar pneumonia, lobular pneumonia, it is also called bronchopneumonia, and interstitial pneumonia. So lobar pneumonia, bronchopneumonia, also called lobular pneumonia, and interstitial pneumonia. So these are the three major pneumonias according to the anatomical region affected. Okay. So then coming to the etiological classification, most common one is bacterial pneumonia. Okay. And then viral pneumonia and mycoplasma pneumonia, and other types which are rare are pneumocystic cardiopneumonia, Legionella, aspiration pneumonia, lipid pneumonia. Okay, these are rare ones. But most common pneumonia which we come across is pneumococcal pneumonia, that is bacterial pneumonia. But now we are facing viral pneumonia. Okay, that is COVID-2. So lobar pneumonia, it involves part. So lobar pneumonia is an important short notes question for you. So lobar pneumonia, you have to know the etiology and then morphology, means gross and microscopy. Okay. So lobar pneumonias involve part of the lobe or entire lobe or two lobes of one or both the lungs. Okay. It may be part of the lobe or entire lobe or two lobes. It may be one lung or both the lungs. Okay. Then etiology, pneumococcal pneumonia is the most common. It is caused by Streptococcus pneumoniae, and it is the commonest community acquired pneumonia in adults. So what are the predisposing factors? So already I've told you the certain predisposing conditions. Same will continue here. So chronic illness or alcoholism, if the patient is a smoker. Okay. Splenectomy means the immune system is not working properly in those patients. So these are the predisposing conditions. So the most common is the lobar pneumonia, is pneumococcal pneumonia, which is the commonest community acquired pneumonia. So other one is staphylococcal pneumonia. So it is caused by Staph aureus. So hematogenous Staph aureus, it may be caused due to hematogenous spread from another focus. Then streptococcal pneumonia is caused by beta hemolytic streptococci. So usually it is seen in children and also in immune deficiency patients, okay, and elderly patients or patients with diabetes. So streptococcal pneumonia, it is due to beta hemolytic streptococci, usually is seen in children and also in elderly and immunocompromised people. Then pneumonia due to gram-negative aerobic bacteria. Examples of here includes H. influenza, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas. Okay, so these are the these will cause usually nosocomial pneumonia. Okay, so hospital acquired. So that is the etiology of lobar pneumonia. So first one is pneumococcal pneumonia, which is the most common, and staphylococcal pneumonia, streptococcal pneumonia, and pneumonia caused by gram-negative bacteria. Coming to the morphology, so lower lobes are most commonly affected, and here you'll have 4 phases. So these phases are important in morphology of pneumonia. First one is stage of congestion. Second one is stage of red hepatization. Okay, then stage of gray hepatization, and then stage of resolution. Okay, so there are 4 stages, okay, in pneumonia: stage of congestion, stage of red hepatization, stage of gray hepatization, and stage of resolution. So what is this first stage? Stage of congestion. So congestion means there are a lot of congested blood vessels. So this is the initial phase. It is the early response, early acute inflammatory response. So always early response will be acute inflammatory, late response will be chronic inflammatory. Okay. So early acute inflammatory response to bacterial infection. Usually this stage lasts for 1 to 2 days. Okay. So what is a gross? So affected lobe. How will be the affected lobe? It is enlarged. So naturally there are many congested blood vessels are present. So that's why the lobe will be enlarged. Some disturbance is coming. Please all of you mute yourself. So grossly affected lobe is enlarged, heavy, red and congested. So on cut surface, there will be exudation of this blood stained frothy fluid, because due to presence of congested blood vessels, there will be on cut surface, you will see blood stained frothy fluid. In microscopy, what you will see? So dilated and congested capillaries in the alveolar walls. Okay. And bacteria may be present in the alveolar fluid. So this is the first stage of congestion. Okay. So grossly, the lobe is enlarged. On cut surface, you'll see blood-stained fluid. In microscopy also, you'll be noticing congested capillaries, okay, with the presence of RBCs and neutrophils. Then the next stage, that is stage of red hepatization. It is also called early consolidation. Okay, stage of red hepatization or early consolidation. So this stage lasts for 2 to 4 days. So how is the gross? Here the affected lobe is red, firm and consolidated. Okay, here it is red hepatization, stage of red hepatization. So the lobe is red in color and it is firm. Okay, it is firm and consolidated. Cut surface, it is dry, granular with liver-like consistency. It is dry, granular with liver-like consistency. That's why it is called hepatization, red hepatization. Okay. Still congested blood vessels will be present. That's why the red in color. And hepatization. So normally the lung, aerated lung. Okay, you'll see that aerated lung, aeration, whatever it is lost, and the consistency will be like liver. Okay, so it will be little firm in consistency. So that's why it is called hepatization. Okay, it will assume the liver-like consistency. The normal aeration of the lung is lost here. In microscopy, what you'll see, in the initial stage, you have seen that edema fluid will be present. So that is replaced by fibrin strands, and there will be in red hepatization stage, you will see more number of neutrophils. Okay, so that's why marked smell of neutrophils will be present. Okay, and these neutrophils may show ingested bacteria. So this is the stage of red hepatization, which will last for 2 to 4 days. Affected lobe is red, firm, cut surface, liver-like consistency will be seen. So the normal aeration of the lung is lost. So in microscopy, what you'll see, edema fluid, and there will be dense collections of neutrophils. So this is the red hepatization. So the red color, what you are seeing, so these are nothing but congested capillaries. Okay, so alveoli, you are not able to notice properly the alveoli, but these alveoli are filled with cellular exudate. So this is nothing but cellular exudate composing of neutrophils. Okay, so this is the hyperview. So this is one alveoli. Okay, this is one alveoli. So you are seeing congested blood vessels filled with RBC and alveoli filled with cellular exudate. Okay, where you see more number of neutrophils in the initial stage. There are also few chronic inflammatory cells, but mainly neutrophils are seen. Then coming to the third stage, that is stage of gray hepatization. It is also called late consolidation. So stage of red hepatization is called early consolidation. Stage of gray hepatization is called late consolidation. So this lasts for 4 to 8 days. Coming to the gross, affected lobe is firm, heavy, and it is dry, granular, and gray in appearance. Okay. So there in the red hepatization, it is also dry, granular, and red in color due to presence of few congested blood vessels. Here it is dry, granular, and gray in color. And in both the stages, the liver-like consistency will be seen. That's okay. So in microscopy, here what is the characteristic feature? The fibrin strands are more in number. Okay. In gray hepatization, the fibrin strands are more in number. In red hepatization, the cellular exudate is more. Even though fibrin strands are present, the cellular exudate is more. But here, fibrin strands are more. Fibrin strands are dense and numerous. And whatever inflammatory cells are present in the initial stage, these will get disintegrated. And there will be appearance of the chronic inflammatory cells like lymphocytes, plasma cells, and macrophages. Okay. So you have to observe the differences. So in red hepatization, that will last for 2 to 4 days. There the lung is dry, granular, red in color, and with liver-like consistency. In gray hepatization, it is also dry, granular. It is gray in appearance with liver-like consistency. Okay. In red hepatization, you'll see more number of neutrophils. Okay. The cellular exudate is more with more number of neutrophils. Fibrin strands are less in number. In gray hepatization, fibrin strands are dense and numerous. And whatever neutrophils are present, they'll start disintegrating. And there is appearance of chronic inflammatory cells like macrophages and lymphocytes. So these are the differences between the red and gray hepatization. And the final stage is stage of resolution. Usually, if we don't intervene with any treatment, this stage will begin by 8th to 9th day. Okay. And with antibiotic therapy, usually this stage will start on 3rd day itself. Okay. So grossly what you will see here, the whatever fibrin exudate is present, fibrin strands are present, they'll get due to enzymatic action, they'll get degraded. So they'll get liquefied. Okay. So this process of fibrin degradation will start usually in the central part and spreads to the periphery. Okay. So whatever fibrinous exudate due to enzymatic action, they'll get liquefied. Okay. That's softening or liquefaction. Usually it starts centrally and usually it spreads to the periphery. So in microscopy, I told you in the third gray hepatization only macrophages will start appearing. So here macrophages are the predominant cells, and these macrophages will contain, usually they engulf the, so they are the phagocytic cells, so they'll engulf the neutrophils, and what is the debris? They will engulf the So this is the final stage, that is stage of resolution. So in stage of resolution, the fibrin strands get liquefied, and more number of macrophages will be seen. These macrophages will engulf the debris and other inflammatory cells. Okay. So these are the 4 stages. So lobar pneumonia means, in short notes, you have to write the etiology and the morphology, the gross and microscopy of each stage you have to remember. So here the entire lobe is affected. So this is the little pie view. So this is the, when you compare with the normal lobe, see the normal aeration is lost, and this is the consolidated, which is firm, okay, and little gray white in consistency. Then coming to the complications. So nowadays we are not facing any like with the bacterial pneumonia, no serious complications with the introduction of these antibiotics. So severe complications are seen only in immunocompromised patients. So, and what are the complications? If you see also what are the complications? Organization. Okay. So it means scarring will be seen in in few cases there will be scarring, that is nothing but post-pneumonic fibrosis. Carnification. So post-pneumonic fibrosis is called carnification. And then there may be pleural effusion, so accumulation of the fluid in the between the pleural surfaces, and empyema, so accumulation of pus-like material between the membranes, and lung abscess. So there is abscess formation in the lobe of the lung. Okay, so abscess is nothing but collections of neutrophil. Okay, and sometimes gangrene and nematocele formation and metastatic infection. So what is this metastatic infection? So this infection in the lung is pericarditis or myocarditis or meningitis. Empyema, gangrene, nematocele formation, metastatic infection. So metastatic infection common in the heart or in the brain or in the ear. So that's about the acute bacterial pneumonia, the lobar pneumonia. Then coming to the chronic bacterial, hope you understood the pneumonia part. So which is very important question for you. And so these coming to chronic bacterial pneumonias and all, this is for your information sake. So when do you call the chronic pneumonia? If the changes are persistent for at least 1 month in a normal host, then you will call it as chronic pneumonia. And the most common infectious agents causing the chronic pneumonias are H. influenza, hemolytic streptococcus, Staph aureus, Pseudomonas. Okay, in if you investigate, you will see there will be leukocytosis, that is total count is increased with neutrophilic predominance. Okay, and blood cultures will be positive. Okay, then coming to the lobular bronchopneumonia or the lobular pneumonia. So it is most commonly, it is due to Haemophilus infections. Which part of the lung is affected? of the terminal bronchiole. So that infection will will spread to the surrounding alveoli. So which will lead to patchy consolidation of the lung. Okay. So lobular pneumonia, the bronchopneumonia, it is due to Haemophilus infection. Mostly it affects the terminal bronchiole and it will extend into the surrounding alveoli, which will lead to patchy consolidation of the lung. So this bronchopneumonia is common in the extremes of age. Okay. So like in infancy or in the old age. And maybe other organisms like streptococcus pneumococci may also cause this bronchitis. And coming to the gross changes, you'll see again consolidation areas very patchy. Okay, so one area very patchy, other area, and one or more lobes are involved, usually bilateral, and lower lobes are involved. It will be dry, granular, and consolidate areas. So there is continuous disturbance in the class. So coming to the microscopy, again you will see neutrophilic exudate. Okay, so and there will be inflammation, neutrophilic exudate, and there will be congested capillaries. So almost the gross and microscopic they are same. Even the complications are also same of lobar pneumonia, and here, but the complete resolution is usually uncommon. It may not revert back to the normal stage. Some degree of destruction will occur in bronchopneumonia. So destruction to the bronchioles will be seen, and ultimately it may lead to bronchiectasis. Okay. So some degree of destruction. But in lobar pneumonia, if we intervene properly with the antibiotics, usually the lung will revert back to the normal without any consolidation and all, without any complications. In bronchopneumonia, usually the bronchioles get destructed, and you'll see bronchiectasis as a complication. Okay. So here in grossly, you'll see patchy consolidated areas. Okay. You remember the previous picture? Entire lobe is affected. Okay. The entire lobe is affected. Entire lobe is gray white. Here, patchy. In bronchopneumonia, you'll see patchy areas of these affected areas. Okay. Here it is normal lung, and this is the consolidated area. And here again normal, here again consolidated area. So this is the classical feature of bronchopneumonia, patchy areas of consolidation. Okay. Here also, if you can observe, so this is before fixation, this is after fixation. So here you can see clearly. So here some gray white areas are seen focally in between the normal red zones of the lung. Okay. So this is a little normal part where you see you can observe and here you will see exudate of see in the these are all nothing but collections of neutrophils along with the RBCs. Congested capillaries are seen. Okay. And sometimes you'll see foreign body formation, germ cell response. So when we aspirate, if we aspirate, that aspirated foreign body. So due to that foreign body will initiate a germ cell reaction. You'll see these. So these are the genes. So I wanted all of you you read what are the differences between the foreign body type of Jayne cells and Langhans type of Jayne cells. Okay, you read, you tell me the difference between the foreign body type of Jayne cell and Langhans type of Jayne cell. Where do you see Langhans type of Jayne cell? Okay, you read today. So that's about the bronchopneumonia. And then coming to the viral and mycoplasmal pneumonia, it is Usually it will cause interstitial type of pneumonia, means the interstitial part is affected. Okay, it is confined to the interstitial tissue, localized within the walls of the alveoli. Okay, so here there is no exudate. Okay, in bronchopneumonia and lobar pneumonia, you will see the alveolar exudate, but here there is no exudate. It occurs in all age groups. The most common organism causing this atypical pneumonia is respiratory syncytial virus. Others less common etiological organism, mycoplasma, influenza, adenovirus, and etc. Okay. So interstitial means, as the name indicates, the interstitial tissue is affected. So the walls of the alveoli, mainly the changes are seen in the walls of the alveoli. Okay. Most common organism is RSV, that is respiratory syncytial virus. So grossly the lungs are heavy, congested, and on cut surface you will see blood, frothy fluid. In microscopy you will see the inflammation in the interstitial tissue. Okay, so usually the viral in viral infections you will see chronic inflammatory cells. In bacterial infections you will see acute inflammatory cells. Okay, so mononuclear cells are the predominant type, like lymphocytes, plasma cells, and macrophages. Okay, so interstitial inflammation is more, that too chronic inflammatory cells are seen, and bronchiolitis. Okay, inflammation of the bronchioles, and then there will be necrosis of the bronchioles. And what are the changes you will see in the bronchioles? Proliferation of the lining epithelium, and sometimes multinucleate giant cells. Okay. In severe cases only the alveoli are affected, and you will see edema fluid, fibrin, and exudate in the alveoli. Okay, but in routine cases you will see interstitial type of inflammation. Okay, with predominance of chronic inflammatory cells like lymphocytes, plasma cells, and macrophages. What are the complications? So most of the cases will recur. If superadded bacterial infection is also seen, means then there will be interstitial fibrosis. Okay, so interstitial fibrosis leading to the permanent damage of the lung. So again, the giant cell. Okay, so it is due to respiratory syncytial virus. So this is a giant cell. Multiple nuclei are seen in the cytoplasm, and this is inclusion. Okay, viral inclusion, the pink color. So here you observe in the previous pictures, the entire alveoli are filled with neutrophilic exudate. Okay, but here the interstitial tissue in between the alveoli, the interstitial tissue is seen. Are you seeing the interstitial tissue? This interstitial tissue is infiltrated with chronic inflammatory cells. Okay, the alveoli are almost normal. Okay, with little inflammation, but the interstitial tissue is densely infiltrated with the chronic inflammatory cells. So here predominantly you will see mononuclear cells. Okay, so this is pneumonia secondary to fungal infection, that is Candida. So just to show the candidal hyphae, see, are you seeing? So these are the candidal hyphae. Okay, and these are the spores. The round ones are there, no? These are the spores. Okay, and these are the hyphae. So here, so this entire thing, it is you are observing here hyphae and spores of the Candida. Okay, and this is lipid pneumonia. So lipid pneumonia, it may be intrinsic or extrinsic. So in cut surface you will see some yellow color or golden pigment grossly. So it may be exogenous or endogenous, I have told you. So exogenous means if you take like fat containing foods or oily foods, if you are taking more, then there is a chance of getting lipid pneumonia. Endogenous means if the particular patient is having hypercholesterolemia, then the patient, sometimes in few patients they may get lipid pneumonia. So apart from the inflammatory exudate, you will see lipid vacuoles. So these clear spaces are nothing but fat vacuoles or lipid droplets. Okay, so this type of microscopy you will see in lipid type of pneumonia. Okay, So you remember lipid pneumonia is exogenous and endogenous. So apart from inflammatory exudate, you will see lipid vacuoles or fat droplets, which are clear spaces. Okay, these are the lipid droplets. This one. And sometimes you'll see foamy macrophages. So what are these cells? Foamy macrophages. Why I'm telling foamy? The cytoplasm is like little hazy, right? So this is foamy. Why? Because it the macrophage has engulfed the lipid here. The macrophage has engulfed the lipid. That's why you'll call it as foamy. Okay. So how is the nucleus here? Nucleus is a macrophage. How does it look? It is vesicular. Okay, round to oval vesicular nucleus with foamy cytoplasm. So these are all the macrophages here. All what are all you are seeing? These are all nothing but macrophages, foamy macrophages. So then coming to the actually SARS. This SARS first appeared in 2002 in China. Now subsequently became pandemic, but that pandemic did not affect the entire world. But this pandemic, the entire world is affected. So SARS incubation period is 2 to 10 days. So it begins with dry cough, malaise. There will be myalgia, fever with chills. So it is a coronavirus that infects the lower respiratory tract and it spreads throughout the body. So detection of the antibodies. So IgG antibodies specific for SARS virus is sensitive and specific test. So what it will do? So many patients now in this pandemic, many patients we are seeing the typical CT changes in the lung. Okay, this pandemic I'm talking about. So even though the TrueNat or RT-PCR test is negative, patients are having typical lung changes in the present SARS. Okay, so the entire lung patchy or consolidated areas are seen in the lung. Okay, but still the patients are getting RT-PCR negative, but CT is showing lung changes. So that's why now we are all advising RT-PCR and also CT lung for the detection of SARS. So there will be diffuse alveolar damage